The shores of Lake Lucerne are the kind of tranquil setting diplomats choose to isolate a high-stakes negotiation from domestic political pressure. This was meant to be the site of a historic dialogue between the United States and Iran. These satellite images show the extent of the damage inflicted on Iran's nuclear infrastructure during 4 months of warfare. The U.S. administration entered these talks publicly demanding what it called the unconditional surrender of Tehran's nuclear ambitions. But on what was supposed to be day one of a 60-day negotiating window, the American delegation was absent. Vice President JD Vance's scheduled arrival in Switzerland was abruptly postponed. The Iranians had halted the talks with little official explanation, leaving the diplomatic venue entirely empty. Tehran halted the proceedings to demand guarantees that military operations in Lebanon would end before any further discussions took place. This creates a global crisis. A bilateral treaty between two powers is being derailed by localized violence involving actors who aren't even allowed in the room. These talks rest on a 14-point memorandum of understanding drafted between Washington and Tehran. The first paragraph requires a complete cessation of hostilities, explicitly demanding respect for Lebanon's territorial sovereignty. But while the U.S. and Iran are the primary signatories, the factions actually fighting in Lebanon, Israel and Hezbollah, are not party to the agreement. Hostilities on the ground immediately tested the text. Hezbollah fighters struck an Israeli tank with an explosive device, killing 4 soldiers. Israel responded with a series of severe airstrikes across Lebanon that resulted in mass casualties. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu justifies the response as a necessary defense of the Israeli people, refusing to be bound by a ceasefire that his government never signed. Including a proxy war in a bilateral agreement without the proxy's consent creates a structural failure. On the ground, the agreement lacks any mechanism for enforcement. Iran is utilizing this loophole to stall the 60-day negotiating clock while maintaining its image as a diplomatic participant. The stall also advances a secondary objective, creating public friction between the United States and its allies in Jerusalem. Vice President Vance has issued public rebukes of the Israeli cabinet, questioning the long-term security strategy of far-right officials like Itamar Ben-Gvir. While the diplomats remain in Switzerland, Iran is already accessing financial benefits through lifted sanctions and renewed oil sales. Lawmakers like Senator Roger Wicker are now questioning the discovery of a potential $300 billion reconstruction fund for the region. This creates a strategic imbalance. Iran receives immediate financial and geopolitical rewards, while the U.S. waits for compliance that may never arrive. The administration's early promise of unconditional surrender has been replaced by an Iranian regime that is still setting the terms of the engagement. Without a finalized agreement, Tehran continues to hold leverage over global trade routes, specifically the transit of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Factions like Hezbollah operate on local territorial motivations that are often immune to diplomatic pressure from Washington or Tehran. The current crisis illustrates a core lesson. Having leverage over a sponsor state does not guarantee control over a localized proxy conflict. Until the war between Israel and Hezbollah is resolved independently, the 14-point memorandum remains a collection of unenforceable promises.